So me and Suge, I done finally found my mob tie contract. Got a lawyer to look over it, but a lot of lawyers, like they don't really want to fuck with it. They fuck with it, but they don't really want to fuck with it. And I got a couple people that have reached out to me, and I just sent it to them, and I still don't trust this shit a whole lot. So me and Suge finally decided to do ChatGPT.
Finesse2Tymes just posted on Instagram asking the internet for help before he does something he is going to regret. A man with a criminal record, a man who did 5 years in federal prison, a man from the streets of Memphis who built himself back up from nothing, is publicly begging for an intervention. And the reason he is at that breaking point right now, the reason this man is unraveling in real time in front of millions of people, has one name attached to it: J. Prince Jr. Mob Ties Records. A contract that Finesse says he finally read in full, and what he found inside that paperwork broke him. Y'all need to hear this, because this is not a regular label beef. This is not two rappers going back and forth on Twitter. This is a man who beat the feds, who survived prison, who climbed back to gold plaques and sold out shows, sitting on Instagram Live fighting back tears, saying he feels like a slave, saying he ain't making no money, saying he wishes he never signed, and now publicly telling the world he needs someone to talk him down before he snaps. This is a 4-alarm situation right now, and the streets are watching every single second of it. Let me break it all down for you. From the beginning. Every detail, every piece of evidence, every post, every rant, every number in that contract. Because once you understand the full picture of what Finesse2Tymes is dealing with, you are going to understand exactly why this man is at his absolute limit. And you are going to be asking yourself the same question the whole internet is asking right now. Why won't J. Prince Jr. just let him go? To understand how we got to this breaking point, we gotta go back, way back. Because Finesse2Tymes is not some overnight rapper who stumbled into a bad deal without knowing better. This man has been through the fire already, multiple times. Born Ricky Hampton in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the toughest cities in America to come up out of. Memphis rap is its own world, fam. It's raw, it's real, it don't sugarcoat nothing. And Finesse came up in that environment, soaking up everything the city had to offer, both the music and the streets. And the streets caught up with him. Before the fame, before the features, before any of this industry stuff, Finesse caught a federal case that sent him away for 5 years. 5 years, behind bars, in the feds, where there is no parole, where you do your time day for day, where you got nothing but time to think about what you want to do when you get out. And when Finesse got out, he had a plan. He was going to make it in music. He was going to take everything the streets taught him and put it into his art. And for a minute, it looked like that plan was working. He drops Back End, and that song does not just do numbers. It goes gold. RIAA certified. That is a real achievement, gang. That is proof of a real fan base, real streams, real cultural impact. Back End was everywhere that summer. Memphis was winning. Finesse2Tymes was winning. Labels started calling. The industry came knocking. And that's exactly where this story takes its first dark turn. Because when the industry comes knocking for someone like Finesse, someone from the streets, someone without a team of lawyers protecting them, someone who is hungry and excited and just wants to eat, that's when contracts get signed that should not get signed. That's when the fine print becomes the trap. That's when you find out years later that the dream you were chasing was really a cage somebody built for you while you were smiling. J. Prince Jr. and Mob Ties got to Finesse, and Finesse signed. Now here's where it gets real, gang, because the details of this contract that have leaked out into the public are wild. And once you hear these numbers, you are going to understand immediately why Finesse2Tymes feels the way he feels. According to what has been reported about this deal, and multiple outlets have now broken down the structure of this agreement, the split works like this. Finesse2Tymes gets 35% of his music revenue. J. Prince Jr.'s Mob Ties label gets 35%. And then, and this is where it gets crazy, J. Prince Sr., the father, the legend, the original boss of Rap-A-Lot Records, he gets 30%. Let me say that again so it actually lands. The artist, the man whose voice is on the record, the man whose face is on the poster, the man who is performing every night, who is building the fan base, who is generating all the content, who is taking all the creative risk, gets 35 cents out of every dollar. Two people who are not the artist are splitting 65 cents out of every dollar that Finesse earns. Fam, that is not a deal. That is a donation. That is Finesse2Tymes working 3 days a week to pay somebody else's rent. And it gets deeper than just the money split, no cap, because this deal also runs through Atlantic Records, through Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment, which means by the time the money actually gets to Finesse, if it gets to Finesse, it has passed through multiple hands, multiple cuts, multiple middlemen. Atlantic takes their piece, Bread Gang takes their piece, then Mob Ties takes their piece, then J Prince Sr. takes his piece, and what's left over at the very bottom of that food chain? That's what Finesse gets. This is why he said, and I quote directly, "Mob Ties the worst deal I ever signed. I should have just gone to Atlantic by myself." Think about what he's saying there. He's saying if he had just walked into Atlantic Records as an independent artist, he would have gotten a better deal than what he got through Mob Ties. That is a devastating statement about what this contract actually looks like. And here's the part that really makes the blood boil. Finesse has gold plaques. He has actual certified commercial success. He built real fan base loyalty. He is not a developing artist who needs a label to break him. He already broke himself. He was already a proven commodity when he signed this deal, which means he signed away the majority of his earnings at the exact moment in his career when he should have had the most leverage to demand better terms. That's either a failure of representation, meaning nobody had his back when he was reading that contract, or it's a situation where the pressure and the excitement of the moment made him sign something he should have walked away from. Either way, the result is the same. He is locked in, and the label is not letting him out. Now, y'all need to understand that this did not just explode overnight. This has been building for months, slowly, publicly, like watching a pressure cooker with the lid welded shut. It starts in late 2025. Finesse2Tymes starts posting. Nothing too alarming at first, just a rapper venting about the industry, which happens every day on social media. But the frequency starts picking up, the posts get more specific, the frustration gets more raw, and people who know the streets, people who know how to read between the lines, started paying attention. Then January 2nd, 2026 hits, New Year energy, and Finesse2Tymes goes on Instagram and fires the first real shot directly at J Prince Jr. No subliminals, no vague posts, no carefully worded statements, direct address. "I, Junior, I want out my contract. I don't want to be Mob Ties no more. I want my own ST. Let me go, Junior."
Hey, Junior, I want out my contract too, bro. I don't want to be Mob Ties no more. I want my own shit. Let me go. Let me go, Junior.
The internet goes crazy. Academics picks it up. No Jumper picks it up. Every hip-hop media page in the country is running with this story, and fans immediately start taking sides. Some people are saying Finesse needs to honor his contract. Some people are saying the label is robbing him. And some people, the ones who really understand the culture, the ones who understand what it means to be a street nigga trapped in a corporate situation, those people are genuinely worried about what Finesse is going to do. Because here's what people who don't know Finesse's background might not fully grasp. This is not a sheltered industry kid who's frustrated about creative differences. This is a man who spent 5 years in federal prison. This is a man who has been through situations that would break most people completely. This is a man from Memphis where the street code is real and the consequences for feeling disrespected are real. When a man like that starts publicly saying he feels trapped, publicly saying he feels like a slave, publicly saying he doesn't even want to make music anymore because what's the point? That is not just content. That is a person at a serious crossroads. But J Prince Jr. does not respond with empathy. He doesn't reach out privately. He doesn't schedule a meeting. He doesn't offer any kind of resolution. What does he do instead? He trolls. March 30th, 2026. J Prince Jr. posts on Instagram. And what does he post? Does he address the contract? Does he speak to the revenue split? Does he offer any kind of path forward for an artist who has made money for his label? No. He mocks Finesse2Tymes for his physical appearance. He posts about liposuction, about plastic surgery, about Finesse supposedly getting cosmetic work done. Not a guy that got lipo, his titties done, and a tummy tuck talking about some hair. I think you need to go back, cuh. That bad bitch energy ain't work. That's it. That's the response. Months of Finesse publicly begging for his freedom, publicly breaking down emotionally, publicly telling the world he is miserable. And the man who holds his career in his hands responds by going at his body image. And fam, I need y'all to sit with that for a second, because that says everything. That is not the response of a businessman who values his artist. That is the response of someone who wants to remind the artist who has the power. That is a dominance move, a humiliation move, a public demonstration that says, I don't have to take you seriously. You cannot make me let you go. and I'm going to remind you of that in the most degrading way possible. Finesse claps back in the comments. Ah, Monet, the difference between me and you is, I accept who I am, you don't. And in his Instagram stories, he writes, shouldn't have let that hustle cartel looking a tupipo badge hold my plaque at that studio. Now stop playing with me. And then the one that sent chills down the internet's spine. Ngas sat back and watched me be depressed. Read that again. Ngas sat back and watched me be depressed. This is Finesse2Tymes telling the world that the people who are supposed to be in his corner, the label, the team, the structure that was supposed to help him win, have been watching him fall apart and doing nothing. Not because they couldn't help, but because a depressed, confused, financially trapped artist is easier to control than a confident one who knows his worth. Now here's where I connect the dots for y'all, because on the surface, this looks like a simple label dispute. Artist is unhappy, label won't let him go. Standard industry stuff, right? Wrong. There are layers to this situation that make it way more complicated than that. Layer 1, the Prince family legacy. J. Prince Jr. is not operating in a vacuum. His father, J. Prince Sr., is one of the most powerful and most feared figures in the history of Houston hip-hop. Rap-A-Lot Records, the legacy, the connections, the reputation. When you sign to J. Prince Jr. and Mob Ties, you are not just signing to a young CEO with a record label. You are signing into a family structure, a lineage of power, a network that extends far beyond the music industry. That is part of the appeal when artists sign. They feel like they are getting protection. They feel like they are getting access to something bigger than a record deal. But what happens when you want to leave that structure? What happens when you decide the protection is actually a prison? That is a very different conversation than walking away from a regular label situation. Layer 2, the Moneybagg Yo dimension. Remember, this Mob Ties deal runs through Bread Gang, which is Moneybagg Yo's company. And Finesse2Tymes in January 2026 gets arrested on drug charges in Dallas. Marijuana, controlled substances, and immediately after his release, he jumps on Instagram and says Moneybagg Yo put the police on him. Bag put the police on me, he wrote. Now Moneybagg Yo has not responded to this accusation. He stays silent. But when you have a man who is already at war with his label, who is already feeling like everyone around him is working against him, and then he gets locked up and blames someone connected to that same label structure, the paranoia, whether it's justified or not, starts building into something dangerous. Layer 3. The financial reality is worse than people think. Finesse2Tymes himself said he hasn't made real money from this deal. He said he pictured a life way better than this. He went on record saying, I ain't looking for sympathy. You live and you learn, but I pictured a life way better than this. It is what it is. We live and we learn. That is a man who has accepted that he got played. That is a man who has done the math and realized that his gold record, his tours, his streaming numbers, his brand deals, none of it has translated into the life he was supposed to be building. And the reason it hasn't is sitting right there in the pages of that contract. Layer 4. The mental health reality nobody wants to talk about. This man publicly cried on Instagram Live. Not in a vulnerability post that was planned and crafted. Not in an interview where a camera crew was set up and there was a producer in his ear. On a random Instagram Live, Finesse2Tymes started fighting back tears talking about this contract situation. A man from the streets. A man who survived the feds. A man who built his entire identity around being strong and resilient. Broke down in front of his entire following because the pain of this situation finally became too much to keep inside. That is not normal. That is not a PR move. That is a man telling you exactly how desperate and cornered and hopeless he feels. And instead of that moment creating urgency, instead of that moment making the label pick up the phone and try to fix things, J. Prince Jr. waits 2 months and posts about liposuction. And this is where the story hits its most serious moment, because after months of back and forth, after the tears, after the public rants, after the trolling from J. Prince Jr., Finesse2Tymes makes a post that stops the internet cold, and he goes online and tells his followers that he needs help, that he needs people to talk to him, that he is at the edge of doing something he is going to regret. A man with a past, a man with a temper that the streets already know about, a man who is publicly saying that he is barely holding it together. Y'all need to understand the weight of that post. When a man from the street says he needs help before he does something he'll regret, that is not a casual statement. That is not clout chasing. That is not a marketing stunt. Men from that background do not ask for help. They don't post publicly about needing to be talked down. The street code specifically says you don't show weakness, you don't show vulnerability. You don't let people see when you're at your limit. For Finesse to override all of that conditioning, to go against everything his environment taught him about how men are supposed to handle pressure, the situation had to be pushed him to an absolute extreme. And what's driving him there? Read it all back. The contract he can't escape, the label that won't negotiate, the money he's not seeing, the disrespect of being trolled about his appearance instead of being spoken to like a man, the girlfriend who got arrested, the people he thought had his back watching him spiral, his own mother going on GoFundMe asking for money because Finesse can't even take care of his family the way he wants to. All of it stacking up, day after day, week after week, month after month, with no resolution, no off-ramp, no light at the end of the tunnel. The internet responded to that post with love. His followers flooded the comments. Other rappers checked on him. Fans were genuinely concerned, and that outpouring showed something important. Finesse. 2Tymes has real people in his corner, real fans who care about him beyond the music. But the one person who could actually fix this situation, the one person who has the power to give Finesse2Tymes his piece back with the stroke of a pen, has stayed silent on the thing that actually matters. J. Prince Jr. will troll him about his surgery. He will not free him from the contract. So where does this situation stand right now, gang? Let me break it down piece by piece. Finesse2Tymes is still signed to Mob Ties. There has been no announcement of a release, no confirmed negotiation, no resolution. The contract is still in place. He is still legally bound to a deal that he has publicly described as slavery, that he has publicly broken down crying over, that he has publicly stated is destroying his motivation to make music. The music has stopped. He said himself he doesn't want to do the album anymore. And when an artist stops making music because they feel trapped, that is not just bad for the artist, that is bad for the culture. Finesse2Tymes has a genuine gift. Memphis rap needs voices like his. His ability to articulate street life with specificity and emotional truth is rare. The fact that a contract dispute is silencing that voice is genuinely a loss for hip-hop. J. Prince Jr.'s reputation is taking real hits in the industry. And this is the part that people close to this situation need to be watching carefully, because the power dynamic is not as one-sided as it might look from the outside. Every day that Finesse2Tymes posts about his situation, every day that more fans learn about that 35/35/30 split, every day that another artist sees this situation and thinks twice before signing to Mob Ties, J. Prince Jr. is losing something. He's losing the thing that every label needs more than anything else: credibility with talent. Artists talk to each other, managers talk to each other, A and R's talk to each other. And right now, the story being told in every studio, in every green room, in every industry group chat is that Mob Ties locks you in and does not let you go. That your success benefits everyone around you more than it benefits you. That when you are unhappy, when you are struggling, when you are publicly breaking down, the response is mockery, not problem solving. That is a recruitment problem. That is a legacy problem, and no amount of trolling on Instagram fixes that. Moneybagg Yo has stayed completely silent throughout all of this, which is smart on his part, but also speaks volumes. When your name keeps coming up in a situation this serious and you never say anything, the silence becomes its own statement. Finesse accused him of putting the police on him. Moneybagg said nothing. Either he's letting the accusations die without oxygen, or there is something there that he knows would look worse if he opened his mouth. The Atlantic Records angle is also worth watching. Atlantic is the major label infrastructure behind this deal. They have reputational interests here too. When one of their distributed artists is publicly comparing their contract to slavery, when that artist is going viral every week with new breakdowns and accusations, eventually that becomes uncomfortable for a publicly traded entertainment company. Atlantic has exited uncomfortable artist situations before. If the pressure keeps building, there is a world where Atlantic's discomfort becomes a lever Finesse or his legal team can use. And speaking of legal teams, this is where Finesse2Tymes genuinely needs to put his energy right now. Because fighting this battle on Instagram, as cathartic as it might feel, is not the move that gets him free. The move that gets him free is a lawyer who specializes in artist contract disputes, sitting down with that Mob Ties agreement and finding every inconsistency, every breach, every clause that has not been honored by the label. Labels breach contracts too. Promotion clauses, advance obligations, creative approval rights. If Mob Ties has failed to deliver on any of the promises that were made when Finesse signed, that's leverage. That's a way out that doesn't require J. Prince Jr. to have a change of heart. Now let me zoom out for a second, fam, because this Finesse2Tymes situation is not happening in isolation. This is part of a much bigger conversation that hip-hop has been having for years and still hasn't figured out. Now, how many artists have we watched go through exactly this? Sign a deal when they're hungry, blow up, make the label rich, then try to get out and discover the walls they're living inside. Megan Thee Stallion versus 1501 Certified Entertainment. Chance the Rapper spending his whole early career warning people to stay independent. Prince literally writing "slave" on his face. Taylor Swift re-recording her entire catalog because she couldn't own her masters. The names change, the story doesn't, and here is what makes the hip-hop version of this story uniquely dangerous. In hip-hop, the executives are not just suits in offices in Manhattan. In hip-hop, the executives come from the same streets as the artists. They speak the same language. They know the same codes. They know exactly how to frame a contract in street terms that make it sound like loyalty and family and brotherhood, when legally, on paper, it's a financial arrangement that heavily favors the label. We family, we eating together, I got you. These phrases mean something in the streets. They create real emotional bonds and real obligations, but they don't appear anywhere in the actual contract. The contract says 35/35/30. The contract says you cannot leave. The contract is what governs the money. And by the time an artist figures out the gap between what they were told verbally and what the paper actually says, they've already been signed for years, and the label has already profited from their growth. Finesse said he finally read his contract and realized he is never getting out. Think about what that means. He is a grown man, an intelligent man, a man who navigated 5 years in federal prison, which requires serious mental acuity and street wisdom. And he says reading his own contract was what finally broke him. Not the streets, not the feds, a piece of paper with his own signature on it. That is the trap. That is the system. And that system keeps working because nobody teaches artists, especially artists from the streets, especially artists without college educations, especially artists who grew up where the culture says a man's word is his bond. Nobody teaches them that in the music industry, the only word that counts is the one in the contract. There is a generation of young artists watching what Finesse2Tymes is going through right now. Kids from Memphis, from Houston, from Chicago, from Detroit, kids who are recording in their bedrooms, who are building fan bases on social media, who are going to have labels calling them soon, and what they are learning from watching this situation in real time is more valuable than any A&R meeting or artist development seminar. They are learning. Read your contract, get a lawyer who only works for you, understand every percentage before you sign. And if someone tells you "we family" while handing you a pen, look at what the paper actually says. That might be the most important thing Finesse2Tymes has given the culture through all of this pain.